began with Romans 8:8 because that's going to have a lot to do with what we talk about tonight. You can't just have empty activities and think that somehow that's going to align us with the Lord. There has to be something behind it. So to start off with, the first thing we have is the actual definitions of fasting, which I took from the American Dictionary of the English Language, Webster 1828. It's a good substitute for a concordance if you find that a little awkward to deal with. The definitions are from the Bible. Noah Webster was a Bible scholar, and it's a good reference thing to have. A says fast as an intransitive verb. Now, in good grammar, maybe you don't know what a transitive, intransitive verb is. It isn't all that critical, but a transitive verb has an action on something. Like, I'm going to eat an apple. Eat would be transitive. Number one, to abstain from food beyond the usual time, to omit to take the usual meals for a time, as to fast a day or a week. Second definition, to abstain from food voluntarily for the mortification of the body or appetite. Mortification is to kill something. So we're going to go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 5, where the Bible addresses that. Anybody there? Colossians 3:5 reads, mortify, therefore, your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. So, in the second definition, we have a purpose for this. To abstain from food for the mortification of the body or appetite, or as a token of grief, sorrow, and affliction. Third level definition, to abstain from food partially or from particular kinds of food as the Catholics fast in Lent. Now, B is fast as a noun. What is a fast? Number one, abstinence from food, properly a total abstinence, but it is used also for an abstinence from particular kinds of food for a certain time. Two, voluntary abstinence from food as a religious mortification or humiliation, either total or partial abstinence from customary food with a view to mortify the appetite or to express grief and affliction on account of some calamity, or to deprecate, that is, to pray against an expected evil. 3. The time of fasting, whether a day, week, or longer time. An annual fast is kept in New England usually one day in the spring. So we have all these references to fasting, and typically they refer to food. But there's a little bit more to this. I'm going to go to the board because I like to draw. Now, I need somebody to call out to me something or some things that people may give up for Lent. Excuse me? Sweet. Got meat, sweets, TV, profanity. Social media. Whoa. Complaining. Okay. Using the elevator. Gossiping. Wow.
Giving up their spouse for Lent? Interestingly enough. Oh. Oh, wait a minute. Turn to Exodus 19. Exodus 19. Somewhere around verse 15. See. In Exodus 19:15 and verses surrounding that, where God is planning to more or less come down and visit the Israelites, they are instructed not to come at their wives for 3 days. See, when you think you're joking about fast from your spouse, even that can serve a purpose. Now, we have any others up here? All right, so we got a list. Giving up meat, sweets. Oh, people give up smoking. Drinking. Smoking, drinking, drugs, gambling, etc. Now, see what types of things we got here. Well, we have things that are edible, things that are enjoyable, things which may be considered things we should give up anyway. I guess vices would be as good a word as any for our purposes. We got activities. We have, of course, something that obviously didn't exist back then. And using the elevator for fasting, I may not understand it, but I don't have to. So. Fine. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I understood the purpose of it. But what we're going to get to is that the purpose of this thing is not to benefit you. That is absolutely not what this is about. We started off with Romans 8:8. Those in the flesh cannot please God. We're familiar with 1 Corinthians 13. Though I give my body to be burned, which none of us have done, or give all my goods to the poor, if I have not charity, which is love, which is God, it doesn't make a bit of difference. So there's no point in I'm going to give up something for Lent and think that has anything to do with your relationship with God if there is no purpose behind it to bring you closer to God, to strengthen you in your spiritual walk. We're going to discuss fasting and prayer at the end of this lesson. The two things together do something for us. We have to walk spiritually in order to do this thing right and to get it right. The devil is the prince of this world. We're just supposed to be ambassadors here. Our true home is in heaven. Our weapons are spiritual, not carnal. If I'm going to war, I would like to have a home field advantage. So the more I can get on spiritual ground, the better off I'm going to be. So when we have these requirements for things, and we know that in the Old Testament the Israelites had a time to fast, God himself discusses it. That's why we're going to go to Isaiah 58 to see what God talks about. Because his view of fasting is a little different than ours tends to be. Because it's not merely a question of what I give up or what I don't do, but what fills that void. If you've ever talked to somebody about breaking habits, one of the first things they tell you is in order to break a habit, you got to get something else to fill the spot that habit took. So when we fast, when we deprive ourselves of something, what do we fill that with? And that's going to be the key to this thing. So we got this long list of things, and depending upon who you are, any of these may or may not constitute a sacrifice for you. That's why you can't talk about what somebody else is going to give up. I could give up eating beets forever. I hate beets. If somebody loves beets, that might be a big deal for them. So this is just us. It's about our own relationship. Now, Section 2 says, though fasting is typically defined and thought of in terms of food, its spiritual objective is not achieved by simply not eating. They call that a diet. No part of our Christian walk is fruitful by merely going through the motions. Once again, I can give my body to be burned, give all my goods, it won't make a bit of difference. God is not interested in gestures. It is always critical for us not to get caught up in self-righteousness. You have to beware of becoming prideful when you think that you're really doing good. There is none good, no, not one. You were saved by grace through faith. And to be oriented that way is a problem for us. I remember I told you all back in the day about the time when I come out of the supermarket and I put my groceries in my car and I had this roll of tape that had fallen down in the cart and I hadn't been charged for it. And it was raining and I didn't want to be bothered, but I took it back in and returned it at the service counter. And I come out feeling all proud, that I did the right thing, And God immediately slapped me upside the head and convicted me because I had only done what I was supposed to do. And even if I was the only person on the face of this planet that would have done it, it's still only what I was supposed to do. We cannot compare ourselves to other people. We cannot get puffed up with how sanctified we are. This thing has to be done under God's direction and supervision. So, fasting is about drawing closer to the Lord and moving away from self-reliance and toward the promise of Isaiah 40, verses 28 through 31. We will read those verses. In fact, our message was from Isaiah 40, 28 to 31 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? All right, Isaiah 40, verse 28. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. The word renew is a critical word. In the Hebrew, it actually means to exchange. We exchange our strength for God's strength. Instead of using our power, we're going to use his power. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. In order for us to give up something, in order for us to weaken ourselves naturally, we have to have the faith and confidence that God is going to supply what we need and to do what he says. And that is at the root of this. This thing has to be spiritually oriented. Now, we're going to start at Isaiah chapter 58, where God himself lays out the do's, the don'ts, the whys, and the wherefores. It is here that the definition of fasting extends far beyond food. It would not have been very practical in the Old Testament for God to have the Israelites give up television or social media. This thing was done in the context of what was available to them. What did they have? Food, clothing. Definitely don't give up clothing for a fast. Going all natural is not spiritual. Shelter. They spend time during the Feast of Tabernacles living in booths. So they would spend periods kind of appreciating what they had, But they didn't have the spectrum of things that we have to do with. So God kept it fairly simple for them. But in Isaiah 58, he's going to make some points that are very telling. We will be going where? From verse 1 through verse 12. Everybody there? Boy, I tell you, these electronic people, they're quick. All right. We'll do 58, 1 through 4 first. Isaiah 58, 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness, and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not? Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure, and exact all your labors. Behold, ye fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. You shall not fast as you do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. The people have fasted for the sole purpose of achieving a desired result from the Lord. They are well-churched people, and they pride themselves on knowing how to handle God, as a spoiled child prides himself on being able to get his parents to do whatever he wants. And now they can't understand why it doesn't seem to be working for them. I fasted for 2 weeks, and I still don't have that big screen. If your purpose is to manipulate God or to get something from God, you might as well stop. And that's the point that the Israelites had gotten to. And now they're wondering, hey, I fasted. How come nothing happened? How come I didn't get what I wanted? What's wrong with God? Doesn't he know what he's supposed to do? If I fast and pray, that's supposed to do it. Well, what is that about? Do you really think that this is just a formula thing where I do a certain action and then God has to respond and my heart is not involved in it? Those in the flesh cannot please God. You can do all the good works you want, all the charitable things you want, it won't work. So the idea of, well, I'm fasting, I'm going to give this up, and now I'm going to be closer to the Lord, and the Lord is going to love me better, and he's going to do good things for me. It's not what this is about. And God's going to explain this to them. We made an agreement with God when we got saved, whether we knew it or not. Our future is guaranteed, so that we don't have to worry about that, and we can afford to look outward. We can take everything he gives us, our gifts, and use them to build up the body. We can esteem others better than ourselves. We can understand God's going to put me through some things so that I can take care of somebody else and counsel them because of what I've been through. So when we do things that are only about us and only affect us, a little bell ought to go off. This isn't the way God does this thing. Even when he blesses me, what he's doing is ministering seed to the sower. I'm supposed to pass something on from everything that he does. He has promised me that all these things will work together for my good. But now I have to understand, what is the point of me abstaining from whatever it is I'm abstaining from? So God begins to explain to them. When he says at the end of verse 3, behold, in the day of your fast ye find pleasure and exact all your labors. He's really telling them on the day of your fast, the only difference is that you skip lunch. Nothing's changed. Your spirit ain't involved in this. You're just going around looking miserable. Yeah, lunch today. What is that doing? What is that doing for you, for me, for the king? What is that doing? It's just another day. God says, and on top of that, you get hungry and irritable and wind up quarreling and fighting. You will not find favor simply because you skipped a meal or two. It's pointless. It is just a gesture. Whatever it is that you intend to give up or abstain from, when you miss it, that ought to trigger something that tells you and reminds you why you're doing it. I'm going to fast, and all I can do is think about food. You have to think about why you're fasting. What is the point of this? There has to be a reason. What am I moving towards? How is this going to work? But just the idea of, I didn't watch my soaps for 40 days. I'm good to go. I'm a sacrificial human being. We have issues with that. And sometimes we can have those issues for our entire Christian walk. We're still doing this thing carnally. There's no surrender. I'm not putting any faith or trust in God. I'm just simply doing something. Some of us can go to church that way. Why do you go to church? I'm supposed to. I've been going all my life. You know, those aren't valid reasons for us to be in church. It's just something I've always done. I was raised in the church. There has to be something to this. So if somebody says, well, you know, what's going on with you? Are you doing anything to observe Lent? You should, somewhere in there, have a response. Whether you give it to them or not, that's on you. But you yourself ought to know. Just as if somebody asks you why you believe in the Lord. You should be able to respond to that. That shouldn't be, I don't know. Well, what you doing? I don't know. I gotta sit down and figure out. I gotta give up something for Lent, and then go on about your business. So he's going to continue with the Israelites here, verse 5 and 58. One of those questions that God asks: is it such a fast that I have chosen? Is this what I want? A day for a man to afflict his soul? Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day to the Lord? God is not interested in suffering for the sake of suffering. Fasting must have a proper purpose. Now, this phrase that he uses there, for a man to afflict his soul, we're going to go back to Leviticus chapter 16. Verses 29 and 31, which discusses what was called the Day of Atonement. Everybody there? All right. Leviticus 16:29. And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict your souls, and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourneth among you. For on that day shall the priest make an atonement for you, to cleanse you, that ye may be clean from all your sins before the Lord. It shall be a Sabbath of rest unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls by a statute forever. What does afflicting your soul have to do with atonement? Well, it says, see A2 above. To abstain from food voluntarily for the mortification of the body or appetites, or as a token of grief, sorrow, and affliction. atonement, which we have broken down after this, at one meant to bring you at one with God. God is spirit. We are flesh. He can only be worshipped in spirit and truth. We want to maximize the spirit, minimize the flesh. Because in order to be at one, that has to happen. And we know that now we have the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, which allows spirit and flesh to commune when they otherwise couldn't. Talked about chemically, they call it an emulsion. When I take oil and water, and if I pour some dish detergent in it, it will cause them to be able to mix. That is what the Holy Spirit does. That's why we can't commune with God apart from the Spirit. It takes two things that will otherwise not go together and allows them to come together as one. Oh, okay. I didn't know. Sounded like a foghorn or something. I don't know. All right. Isaiah 58, 6 through 12. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? All right, so now we're going to get some information. What is this thing about? And when it comes from God, you don't need to interpret it or expand on it. You just get it. To loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that ye break every yoke. Boy, we didn't have many of those things on the list. We might have to go back. All right. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then shall the light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. And thy righteousness shall go before thee, and the glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. Right now I'm at Isaiah 58:9. And this is in response to what he had told them earlier, that do you really think that what you're doing is going to cause your voice to be heard on high? He's now telling them, this is what it takes for you to be able to approach me, to come near me. All right, 59:9. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity, and if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. And the Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. God is referring to outward things, not just us, but what is being extended from us. As a result of me giving up something, as a result of some sacrifice, as a result of me abstaining from something, what am I replacing that with? Have I replaced something meaningless with something equally meaningless? The fast that God has chosen is self-denial for the benefit of others, not just about you. Yeah, you come, you got your testimony. Yeah, well, I gave up pork rinds for Lent, and I lost 12 pounds, and I feel so much better. And I'm like, well, good for you. Stay off the pork rinds. What does that have to do with God? I mean, really, what? A pause from the pursuit of our own objectives is what this is about. afflicting your soul. Me, what I want, how I feel, what's going to benefit me. Take a pause from that and start thinking outwardly. This is the atonement, the at-one-ment of peace and charity. Once again, 1 Corinthians 13, without charity, means nothing. All your sacrificial acts, all the things people are patting you on the back about, all the things that won you that Nobel Prize, don't mean a thing, because those in the flesh cannot please God. God's fast calls for us to be strengthened inwardly by looking outwardly. As we deny ourselves, we are to focus on why we are doing it. Making our voice heard on high is what is conditionally promised in verses 8 to 12. Now, does that make any sense to somebody? It may cause you to rethink this whole Lenten observance, but I think, as I mentioned later on here, it's not like, well, you know, I gave up TV, so now I go bowling. I mean, really. Well, what is the point? We have to understand that fasting not only involves more than food, but we are really not well acquainted with sacrifice. We're soft, we're spoiled. Sacrifice is, I got to stay in the United States for my vacation this year. Really? That's where we are. Yes. Mm-hmm.
These things in the Bible that is not to deal that bread to the hungry and you know, feed the poor and all that. Is that a form of fasting? Is that what they say?
All right. God is dealing with not the activity of fasting, but the purpose.
Okay.
We need to back off from us.
Okay, now.
You know, because normally we're about us. You know, and that's not that it's a bad thing. You know, I got to take care of my family. I got to pay my, you know, all of these. And God is saying, you can take a step back. Trust me. You can rely on me a little bit. But this thing is not going to work for us collectively as His children if all of us are just doing our own thing. And over the course of time, you can just get totally oriented that way. Even our worship can be totally self-centered. Everything's cool. The Lord is blessing me. I don't know about the rest of them. Everybody got problems. Not me. It's a very easy thing to do. That's the way flesh is. And God says, take some time and back off. Because when you do that, you're at one with me, because now you are like me, and now your light is shining and people can see me in you. Because of the unselfishness. Who's more unselfish than God? Obedient unto death for us who didn't even want Him. How can you be at one with God and yet you have no similarity to God? Nothing about you is godlike. He's telling us, take a break. I mean, when He gave the Israelites these feasts and these holidays and these observances periodically, it's because periodically we need to do that. Just like periodically your car may need some kind of maintenance and oil change, we periodically need to be reset. As Paul said, I die daily. Because when we don't, we go down that slope like our man David did. I start with a little issue, and the next thing you know, sometimes we just got to slow down and say, look, let me do something for somebody. Who can I bless? Do I really need this? Because, you know, if I don't do this, then I'll be able to do something else. And now what's involved is this thing that God cares about, your heart. If your heart is right, everything is good. If your heart isn't, doesn't matter. Those in the flesh cannot please God. People do very nice, generous, charitable things that have nothing to do with the Holy Spirit, nothing to do with God. Some people just feel good doing things for people because they feel better. Yeah, I helped out some bums last week. That's not the fast that I've chosen. You sitting around looking miserable. Yeah. You don't know how I suffer for the Lord. I haven't had a hoagie in 8 months. This is serious business with the Lord. I mean, we know that fasting is not required, but we can do it in so many different ways. And you don't have to, totally harm yourself, but nothing's a sacrifice if you don't feel it. And you should feel it to the point that you understand, I'm doing this because my flesh needs to be toned down just a little bit. And I need to move closer to God. We're going to get to approaching the end of this, the combination of prayer and fasting. Why that's such a powerful thing to do. But we can't be totally self-indulgent and think that this thing is all right. None of us were designed for that. We were created unto good works. Our very giftedness is to edify the body. And dealing with others, blessing others, thinking in terms of others is what any of us should be about at some point. We're just folks. Like I said, we're saved by grace. You got to take care of yourself. You have a good time. Maybe you like cars. Maybe you like nice clothes. You like whatever you like. But at some point, this can't all be about us. And that's all God is saying. There's enough people with enough stuff to take care of some people who don't have enough stuff. He even told them in the Old Testament, even when you do the harvest, don't go getting everything out of the corners and all the rest of it. Leave some. That's all. We just got to, leave some. All right. Part 3. We'll deal with some specifics here. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 6. And many times you'll see Matthew 6, 16 through 18, but we're going to go 14 through 18. Because this idea of atonement, of us being able to align ourselves with the Lord, is here. Everybody there? All right, Matthew 6, 14. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, and wash thy face, that's right, look bright and sunny and chipper, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. All right. Now, to rightly divide this, the concept of atonement begins at verse 14. Matthew 6, 14 through 18. Okay. That's the reason that verse 16 begins with, moreover. These things are connected. Fasting that does not mortify the flesh has no spiritual benefit. If everyone is buzzing about how long you've been fasting, all you did was go on a diet. Yeah, Brother Dennis been fasting for 12 months. If one gives up watching television for a period of time and replaces it with bowling, instead of study, meditation, or charitable work, for example, it is pointless. You haven't really given up anything. You just changed an activity. There has to be some purpose behind this. There have to be reasons. All right. Go to Mark 2:19. Okay, Mark 2:19. We all together? All right. And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. Now, you have to know a little bit about the scenario there with the bridegroom and all of this. But it connects to Matthew 6. And he simply say, if the bridegroom is celebrating, the guests at the wedding feast should not be fasting. Kind of doesn't make any sense. It's difficult to fast in secret at the family barbecue when you're explaining to everyone that you can't have your usual plate of ribs because you're in the midst of a holy fast. Either eat or stay home. You showed up for the specific purpose of sitting there looking miserable so everybody can ask you what you're doing. Oh, that chicken looked good, but child, I can't have none. I want to fast for the Lord. I can have some potato salad, but look. Those in the flesh cannot please God. If this is about your flesh, about impressing people with how sanctimonious you are, you can forget it. We can have a whole lot of wasted effort as Christians because it's not coming from the Spirit and it's not about anything spiritual. And you see that many times in the Gospels. If you want to praise the men, then that's your reward. That's what you want. That's what you got. How can anything bear fruit when it's not connected to the vine? It's that simple. If I'm not connected, no fruit. All right. Matthew 17:21. All right, for purposes of this, in case anybody's not familiar with the story, and since we have a couple extra minutes, I'll start at 14, Matthew 17:14. And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed. For oft times he falleth into the fire, and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him. And the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, that ye shall say unto this mountain, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove. And nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting, in essence, what we're talking about is communion and atonement. Prayer is our communion heart-to-heart with God. Fasting is about atonement, being at one with God. So we're trying to maximize the spiritual power that flows through us. It's kind of like turbocharging this thing. First of all, 17:21 lets us know that evil exists at different levels of power, just as they are both angels and archangels. They're not all the same. Jesus said this kind will only go out by prayer and fasting. All that other stuff you've been doing that's been working for you, different level this time. The prayer exercises the faith while the natural man is weakened. We have, in effect, turned the battle over to the Lord. Let's turn to Psalm 109, verse 4. Okay, Psalm 109, verse 4. It's a Psalm of David. It's written in the King James thusly. For my love, they are my adversaries, but I give myself unto prayer. And you'll see those words printed in italics, which means they're generally added for our readability. Where David says, I give myself unto prayer, it is actually written in the Hebrew, I am all prayer. That is no flesh. 100% spiritual. Prayer and fasting as a combination. It's double-edged because we're dealing with spiritual increase while at the same time dealing with natural decrease. I'm working on this thing from two directions. I'm decreasing the flesh and increasing the spirit at the same time. This has got to be like the max that I can do. So prayer and fasting as a combination are helpful to us because now we're not only moving away from something, but we're being pushed toward where we want to go. So when it says that certain kinds only go out by prayer and fasting, if you remember from up top, under fast as a noun, B number 2, it says to deprecate, pray against, and expected evil. There may be times when you're in a situation, and instead of sitting there just quaking and wondering, what's going to happen, maybe you ought to try to give yourself over to the Lord a little bit to help with that. Let Him strengthen you. On top of that, when we went through Colossians and Philippians, we were discussing Paul. And Paul spent time in prison not knowing what was going to happen. But he came to the realization that I have to behave as if I'm coming out of here. If I don't come out, it really doesn't matter what I do. But if I do come out of here, then I need to be prepared. And I need to keep moving myself toward the direction that I want to go. So that concludes our lesson on fasting. If anybody got questions, comments, complaints, but, excuse me? Oh, okay. Yeah, at any time here. All right. So all I've attempted to do tonight, as usual, is stay in the book and tell you what God considers a fast. No point in somebody around being miserable for 40 days for absolutely no purpose. God is looking for something from us. I'm not going to have you do something just to be doing something. He's not about busy work.